Hello, hello, YouTube world. I am going live today on a Wednesday. I wish I could think of something catchy why we're going live on Wednesday, but essentially it was what I was thinking of for today. And so I have Mike Oswald here with New American. And Mike, do you want to introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. Mike Oswald, New American Funding. And I'm a mortgage lender in the Denver metropolitan area, state of Colorado, and have been doing this for over 20 years. And the bank I'm with is a full servicer, and we service our own loans, and we're in 48 states.
Perfect. I love that because we have a lot of people coming in and out of state. So that helps. So today, the goal, the objective is to talk about the Denver metro market. It is so hyper local as far as from the agent perspective goes, on which houses are sitting and which houses are moving.
Mm.
Some of the neighborhoods have multiple offers, and it is nearing the craziness of last year. And some neighborhoods, even when the house is priced right, they're not getting the showings, they're not getting the movement, they're not, you know, and price ranges do matter, of course, but
Sure.
um, that's just kind of what we're seeing from my numbers. We've had we had roughly 650 or 690 new homes come on the market. We're carrying a balance of just over 3,000 homes.
Hmm.
And but we had over 700 go under contract and more than that close. So we're eating up that 3,000 pool
Hmm.
essentially.
Hmm.
Some people call it absorption rate, whatever.
Sure.
We're working our stockpile down, and essentially that just tells us we're still in a seller's market, right?
Hmm.
So, what do you think buyers are thinking? Like, what are you seeing? Because you really do. You see the buyer side of it.
Yeah.
What are the struggles? How are the loan? We like to, a lot of the numbers that we have are lag measures, right? But a leading measure would be loan applications. What are you seeing there? How are the buyers feeling? What are some of the struggles they're working through?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the loan applications have gone up since the last several weeks in the metropolitan area. Yay!
Yeah.
Which means more buyers are getting out in the market, and getting approved and trying to buy. Which is this time of year. I mean, typically, also we've seen rates come down from their highs of the last 12 months. The feds have cooled as far as the increases. Just today, we had inflation numbers come out, which were quote unquote cooler, meaning the increase has diminished, which is what the effect, it's what they're looking for. And so that's going to drive rates down as we see that start to come out more and more. Yeah. So
Just take a deep breath there.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and to go back to your question about the buyers, I mean, that's what a lot of folks are, having to navigate, getting qualified, obviously, with debt to income, the rate comes into play. It's going to affect the payment, their debt to income, also their affordability.
That's it, right? We live in the payment. So
We
that's
do.
those are
We
the
do.
factors that
Absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
drive that.
Absolutely. And so when rates coming down, that's good news for those buyers that might be stretching it a little bit, stepping out from that rent payment into a mortgage, which is going to be more, and being able to not only qualify on the lending guideline side, but just being able to afford it, and be comfortable with that.
So I gotta tell you, you said it mortgage maybe more. Um, Now granted, I've owned my house. I've been in my house for 7 years or whatever, but I bought it post-divorce. I bought it myself a couple of years ago. And uh I have watched my monthly mortgage go up, which we say that's why you buy a house is so that you can, have relative security so that your rent's not raising. And was kind of a little bit salty about it because it's taxes, right? And
Sure.
it's
Sure.
homeowners insurance.
Hmm.
And those two things, with the wildfires and everything we're paying for, right? The
Oh,
insurance
yeah.
is going up. But so is my home value. So that's why my taxes are going up, right?
Hmm.
And I mentioned somebody the other day. I was like, oh, I got to remember my mortgage comes out on the 1st. It's like $1,900. And they turned to me and they live in an 800 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment. And they said, your mortgage is less than my rent. And I just kind of left it there.
Mm-hmm.
But wow. And I know this, right? Because I have some listings that are income properties or,
Mm-hmm.
have apartments in them, and I know what they charge.
Sure.
I just it just comes back to the, you're gonna pay somebody's mortgage, whether or not it's yours is your decision. So, talk about just a little bit, now that we're seeing mortgage rates come down, now that we've seen, the Feds lower PMI,
Mm-hmm.
which is your mortgage insurance rate,
Mm-hmm.
from what was it, like 85 down to 55
Mm-hmm.
for FHA
Almost
loans.
half. Mm-hmm.
Tell tell me that help me tell the story of, if you're a first-time home buyer and you wanna buy to drop your monthly payment or to whatever, to increase to pay your mortgage instead of somebody else's,
Yep.
um, you're looking at the purchase price, you're looking at your qualified rate, you're looking at PMI, all of those sorts of things. What would be your sort of perspective on an FHA getting an FHA loan and getting in your first property?
I think first off, it's the perfect time to buy. Buy a house, purchase now.
Yeah.
And the biggest conversation the most conversations I have with buyers are, well, I'm going to wait till rates come down more, and that type of thing. And I'm like, you're making a mistake, because yes, it will help with the payment at the price of the house today, but the house you buy, think about it, it's competitive, right? There's a lot of, we just talked about it. There's not much inventory. There's less sellers than buyers, right? There's more buyers. What do you think is going to happen when rates come down even more? So it's just going to it's going to increase the number of buyers. It's going to make it harder to purchase, more competitive, and you're going to pay more for that house. So I tell people, buy now. The rate's not maybe quite where we all want it to be, but then next year when they come down, refinance, get the lower rate. So with FHA, what's cool about FHA is surprisingly, they lowered their PMI, which was great. They didn't do what Fannie Mae is doing, which is the conventional side, which added some stuff to like how they price and everything, which is making it a little bit harder. But for the person using FHA, which the FHA loan is traditionally for first-time home buyers, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, but the reason it's so popular is it's way more forgiving with the down payment. 3.5% is really low down payment. The interest rates aren't affected by the credit score. So you've got a buyer that's like, look, my credit score is not perfect. It's decent, but it's not perfect. Conventional financing affects the rate dramatically. If you're below 700, it affects your rate dramatically, but FHA, not so much. So there's a lot of benefit there. Plus, as you mentioned, Renee, FHA lowered the PMI, which is most people know if you put less than 20% down, you have to pay private mortgage insurance. You have to do that on conventional and FHA. FHA lowered the cost from, like 40%, and almost cut it in half. So that's made it super more affordable, I should say, with the rates coming down. So it's a great time to buy.
With the caveat that after you reach the 20% on a conventional loan, that PMI drops off, but, it is always on there with an FHA loan. Yet, what do we always say? Marry the house, date the rate.
Oh yeah.
So, if you're gonna wait for rates to drop, that's fine, but why don't you wait while paying your mortgage and not somebody else's? So get in, and this is literally, I was trying to make a reel of it the other day. If I was more tech savvy, I would totally have it done. But Dave Ramsey's been talking. Now is the time to buy. You sounded exactly like him when you started. You said, now is the time to buy. Why? Because homes now are at their most affordable place that they're ever going to be, at least in the near, and I will say near being 20 years. Um, Especially in Colorado, we live in a vacation state, right? And
Sure.
so basic supply and demand, we have less supply, we have a steady, strong demand here, and have for how many years? I've lived here for 20 years almost, and grew up 3 hours from Denver. When I stop and think of the amount of homes in the territory that has expanded, the suburbs, the
Hmm.
densification that has happened downtown, the
Oh,
all of
sure.
that, and how far we even have to go still, it just sort of blows my mind. So, you either can get in now, or you can get in later, or you can be completely shut out of the market, because even when the market slowed down last year, we still saw over 8% appreciation, which means everybody that bought a house last year during the craziness, they still earned their house is worth more, at least 8% more now than on what it was when they bought it. Nobody's
Absolutely.
underwater.
Absolutely. And that's the appreciation aspect of equity building. But also, every month, like you said, you're making your mortgage payment. So in that mortgage payment is principal, which is paying down the loan, and interest. But every month you chunk away at that principal. So you're paying your own mortgage. So each month you gain equity instead of paying the landlord, the person that owns the house or even the apartment that you live in. You're paying their quote unquote mortgage for them. You're building their equity, their wealth,
Yeah,
their net worth. And
you're
so
making them wealthy.
100%. And back to your talk about, like, and this is something that people, oh, the house market's going to crash. We're going to see prices reduce. I'm going to lose out. The millennial generation, and, I don't throw that out there like, oh, millennials. But if you're a millennial out there, you're listening to me, gosh, that generation is twice, significantly larger than the previous generation of baby boomers, which grew our country size. Baby boomers are retiring, but millennials are growing into that age of, uh, you know, adulthood, right? We all grow up, right? So, meaning they've been out of college, or they're out of that college age. They've gotten their jobs established. They're getting married. They're starting to have kids, and they're in that home buying, and they're growing. So they're getting older every day into that age. So what does that do for demand? What does that mean for housing? There's going to be a demand. I mean, there's just not enough homes to supply that demand. And
But
that's the truth of it. And
yeah, and technically I'm a millennial, by the way. So thanks
there
for
you go.
not throwing us under the bus entirely.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Um,
yeah.
so
Some of my best friends are millennials.
yeah, so you're right though. And a lot of the millennials are on I'll say the second marriage strain. Your kids are older.
Sure.
I had kids young. I bought my first house young. I This is something that I've always felt was important. I'm I always say I was on the Midwest plan. However, what we're seeing is I like to look at trends in other industries as well, right? So with the baby boomer generation, they took a lot longer to retire. They've stayed in the workforce, and what that has done has sort of just created this backlog of educated professionals in different generations in all positions
Hmm.
who are just sort of waiting for the boomers to retire, right? Well, that's finally starting to trickle in. Well, what we've seen on their houses is that they went and bought a house when they were young. They are the last generation of any sort of a pension. So they towed the line, they plugged whatever, away at what they were supposed to do. They own these houses outright. They're way too big for a lot of them, because their families have moved out or moved on. They need to
Hmm.
right size. They want to downsize. They want to take care of less yard. They want to take care of less maintenance. And yet we're seeing them age in place until they have to make a move, right?
Sure.
And we're just now starting to see that trickle in to the market. That will relieve some of the demand, but it's they're not they're not moving as fast as we've got millennials coming in. So essentially, it's creating the squeeze again, right?
Absolutely. They're living longer due
Yeah.
to, just the age expectancy is a lot older now than it was even, our parents, grandparents, and so forth, and that's due to tribute to a lot of factors. But
So start the Botox earlier.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, and I guess that's good. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people are living into their 80s and 90s and living healthy, productive lives, and being able to stay in a home and not be kind of, in assisted living situations. So they're still retaining their home. So that's putting a cap on as the millennial. And I use millennial only because that's the bigger generation. I'm an Gen X,
Yes.
and I'm on the cusp, but I mean, it's just they're coming into their own and they're buying. And they were actually, there's a study out there, and I've seen that, where that millennial generation was stifled a little bit, meaning they hesitated, they pumped the brakes as they before they bought a house, because a lot of the kind of the older millennial edge came in after the crash,
Mhm.
right? And so they saw what was going on, the economy and everything. So they kind of pumped the brakes, lived at home, got jobs that maybe weren't their career jobs out of college, that type of thing, kind of just hung out for several years. And now those folks are coming. Now you overachieved, Renee, buying your
No,
house young, having your kids young and all that. So, and I'm not surprised you're that.
no, I I did nothing the easy way. I will say that. I
Right.
did what I will say is that one of the best investments I made was that first house,
Sure.
and we ended up having to sell for the exact same price that we bought it in because, even though we'd owned it for 5 years, we sold in 2007. We also bought in Denver in 2007. So, I think, if I remember correctly, my then husband had already moved out here. Him and my agent went and saw 72 houses. There were
Crazy.
that many on the market,
Oh, sure.
that just the ones that I marked as wanting to see, they went and saw 72 of them. We bought the 72nd house. Oh my god, talk
The
about
72nd house.
I have never, like, knock on wood, I've gotten to 27, but I cannot even imagine. And this last one that you're helping me with, we're gonna be one and done because we get
Oh, yeah.
very specific about what we want, what the client wants, and how we can make that happen. And we do that because we have a good relationship, right? We can
Yeah.
talk and go back and forth
Absolutely.
and be
And that's a
professional.
testament to you too. You find out what the client wants, and then you help them. And you kind of have to do it that way now in this market, because yes, you can look at a bunch of houses, but they're going to start popping off the market while you're thinking and looking and all of that. And you don't have the luxury of 70 houses that are sitting around waiting for you to decide, that type of thing. They're gone by the time you
I
know,
know.
you know,
I'm
view
just
them.
gonna add one little piece in there. 72 houses in our price range was like 300,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course.
Can
Yeah.
you even
So
imagine that?
So look at that. That's a testament to like what we've been talking about.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, I always think like when I got out of college, I moved in and rented a house with some buddies in Observatory Park.
Mm.
Why on earth I
Oh,
had no idea that I could buy a house. I wasn't in the industry. I didn't get in until a little bit later. And I didn't even know how to spell the word mortgage. I was like, I didn't know. And I look back and think if I would have just said, let's buy a house, use FHA financing, could have bought a house in Observatory Park for 250 grand,
oh my
300 grand.
gosh.
And now, I mean, we know the rest of the story, but I spent a lot of time not knowing. And so my message here and your message out and to everyone is try to buy a house. Don't be afraid of it. You got to pay something to someone to live somewhere. And
I Yeah, everybody's gotta live somewhere.
I honestly don't think you can go wrong. And if anything, you're just going to pay the loan down and then you can just sell. I mean, it's just, everyone's like, well, I move. What if I have to move and everything? And I'll ask them, I'm like, well, how long have you been in your apartment? 7 years. And I'm like, you're
I
not a
know.
mover. Yeah. So it's like, and there's a lot of fear and you think there's this commitment, but gosh, I look back and think there was never a time to not buy. And I didn't buy because I didn't know. I just didn't know what I didn't know. My parents weren't in the industry. No one taught me like you're teaching your kids.
Yeah, well, I don't wanna get to that, but,
Yeah.
and that was a part of the mastermind this morning, was that discussion was that there's never been a 10-year period ever in the history of homeownership that the person that owned didn't come out ahead. Now, there might have been people who owned for shorter periods of time and had to sell and had to move that didn't make a profit,
Hmm.
um, but essentially, if you take into account count up the amount of dollars that you're gonna spend in rent, 2,000, $3,000 a month, so you're looking at 24, $36,000 a year,
Hmm.
um, and you just think of just even 10 years. Say, "You know what? I'm not gonna buy until you graduate college when you're 21 until I hit 31. I'll have be more settled, I'll know where I'm at, I'll know." 10 years of that, you have literally paid the entire mortgage on a house in my neighborhood. Like the entire one. Like that,
Mhm.
and that's just mind-blowing to me. Uh,
Absolutely.
but for everybody that's watching that doesn't know Observatory Park in Denver, I just want to rub a little salt in that wound that you mentioned. That is near DU, and one of the most popular, beautiful tree-lined streets, 2 stories, colonial Tudors, you name it. One of the most in demand, best areas for school districts and that sort of thing. You can't get in there for lower than right out of $2 million right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. And I could
So
have probably bought it. I'm not going to date myself too badly, but I probably
you
could
said
have
you're
bought a
Gen X.
decent house. I could have bought a decent house for 300, 400 back then, which obviously was a lot, but now look at it, right?
But
And it's just in the, you know,
you could have lived with your buddies and had them pay you the mortgage and then house hack that.
100%,
Come
100%.
on. Home
FHA, by the way, you can do that and buy the house and then have people live and do that, especially if you get a 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. That's another call, maybe.
I know, right? Because I have a 3 unit right now on the market, and we lowered the price specifically to the FHA limit, right now for that purpose alone. So if you're thinking about house hacking, please reach out. I
Yeah,
literally
house
have the
hacking.
perfect
I
one
love
on
that.
the market.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
I've checked
so
that property out. It's really nice. Check it out.
yeah. So, okay, the last thing I'm gonna touch on, and you have kids too.
Mhm.
They're in their 20s, is that right?
College, and one's just out of college. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's different programs, different ways you can get your license, your real estate license, and honestly, real estate is not easy. It is a grind. It is owning your own business, and it is a grind. But if it's your passion, you're blessed, and that's me. It's my passion. So I have 2 kids. In August, they'll be 16 and 18. We've talked about, and they'll be at home their senior year when they're 18. Wanted to save the teacher's sanity, so we held them back a year before they went into kindergarten. But
Nice.
they couldn't sit their butts in a chair to save their life, so we did that. Um, so anyway, I've told them that they have to get their real estate license,
Mhm.
um, when they turn 18. That's one of the things you have to be 18. So, not only do I want some help doing some open houses, yeah, but they can start referring their friends' parents or whomever they know. And then if you have your license, you can literally earn a percentage of the commission just by making that connection.
Mhm.
So, and I do that a lot. So if somebody wants to get their license or has their license and they really don't like real estate, that's fine. Refer the people to me. I'll write you a check at the end of the transaction. I'm happy to do that. So I've explained to them that when they do that, then they start piling cash away for college, um, and buying their first house. My goal is that wherever they go to college, they live in the dorms for the first year, and then let's buy a house, dude. Buy the
Sure.
first
Yeah. Smart. Real smart, Renee.
one.
Absolutely. Applaud that. Yeah.
That's the way we
Wish I would
create
have thought of that, but
general wealth, or,
yeah.
generational wealth, is teaching them. We I have screwed up so many things as a parent. I'm glad that I could do a good job with one of
Yeah.
them. So, we'll take our wins where we can get them. So,
Exactly.
anyway, we have been on here about twice as long as I promised it would take you. So thank you for staying on today. I appreciate it. Guys, I'll include Mike's information below as well as my information. If you haven't clicked like and subscribe on my channel, please do. We have committed to going live at least once a week. I have a whole series of videos that are already there, a whole series that are launching one a day this week. So educate yourself. Knowledge is power, and nobody is telling you you have to do anything, but the more knowledge and education you have, the more options you have in life. So,
100%. 100%. Real quick, like Renee does as well with her clients. I am an open book. I love educating. If you're someone sitting there renting an apartment and you're like, you know what? I just don't know. I'd love to know. I am willing to get on the phone and talk to you. No obligation, no commitment. I will
Yeah.
share my wealth of knowledge as to anyone who's willing.
It's what we do, right? We educate, we negotiate, you educate and you
Qualify.
woo, qualify. You run the numbers.
Yep, I don't negotiate. I mean, I can negotiate a little bit on rate and do stuff like that, but it's not with
Yeah,
a seller. I qualify and educate.
that's awesome. That's what we do. All right. Thanks, Mike. We'll see you again next week.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Renee. Thanks, everyone.